And second, could I get a motion to approve the minutes from the April 14th meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. And to Jerry for the values moment, please.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jerry Creel, and I'm the Senior Manager of Electric Distribution, Construction, and Maintenance at Southside Service Center. I've been with JEA a little over 15 years, and my team is responsible for the construction, maintenance, and restoration of JEA's electric distribution system and the downtown network. The safety brief for those attending at headquarters is on the screen and in your materials, and for everyone else, please be mindful of your surroundings. At JEA, our values are safety, respect, and integrity. And for today's values moment, I would like to highlight the value of integrity. What is integrity? Some people define it as what you do when no one's looking. I think this is a good definition as it speaks to one's character, but it goes a little deeper than that. As public employees and servants of the community, we have a responsibility to set a good example and always do the right thing. Our community deserves nothing less, and I, along with my JEA family, take this charge very seriously. As leaders in the organization, we have that same responsibility to set a good example and always do the right thing. Our employees deserve a culture of excellence and to work at an organization with integrity at the forefront of everything we do. As a father, I also carry this value over to my personal life. I do my best to instill a good measure of integrity into my children by setting a good example and doing the right thing, even when it's difficult. They're the future and they're always watching. At JEA, integrity is a very important core value. Without it, we wouldn't do well on upholding our other two values of safety and respect. By that, I mean having the integrity to follow safe work practices or to report an unsafe condition, or having the integrity to always be inclusive and treat everyone with respect. Or by having the courage to speak up when something isn't right and to take the appropriate actions when needed, even when it's uncomfortable or unpopular. By ensuring integrity is present in everything we do, we make ourselves better, JEA better, and our community better. Thank you for allowing me to present this values moment.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Well said. Okay, I think we're ready for comments from the public. And first, Logan Cross, please.
My name is Logan Cross. I'm a San Marco resident and chair of the Sierra Club of Northeast Florida. As many of you, I'm sure, know, this is a time of considerable debate here in Jacksonville, as Jacksonville considers the possibility of investing in a new stadium at from $1 to $1.5 billion. One can only wonder how people will react when they learn that JEA is on the verge of committing to making a similar sized investment in a combined cycle natural gas plant. The response to that assertion by me, or the statement by me, I'm sure some of you are thinking that all that's been approved is doing a feasibility study and no commitment has been made to make such a commitment. But JEA recently passed its electrical integrated resource plan, and many of the components, key components of that plan, are contingent on and assume that a combined cycle natural gas plant will be built. For your information, the Sierra Club, St. John's River Keeper, and a number of other organizations in the region are seeking to get Jacksonville to commit to operating on 100% renewable energy by 2050. In so doing, it would join 13 other cities in the state that have made a similar commitment, and many cities nationwide. If JEA goes through with its building of a combined cycle natural gas plant, such a goal will really become a pipe dream. At that point, JEA will be locked into fossil fuel dependence through 2050 at least. One other thing to think about with regard to this is that the retort to that claim about, and part of the justification for a combined cycle natural gas plant is that it can eventually be converted to operating on hydrogen fuel. Keep in mind that a combined cycle natural gas plant is called that because it is designed to burn natural gas, not hydrogen fuel. Another thing to consider is for it to be of any, that converting into hydrogen fuel to be of any environmental benefit, it would need to be running on clean hydrogen. That is hydrogen created through using renewable energy sources. Otherwise, it's really of no value in that regard. So at a time when many other utilities are transitioning from fossil fuels to renewable energy sources, a time when the city there's great debate about making substantial expenditures, and at a time when a lot of other cities are embracing their role in climate change and committing to reducing their carbon footprints, we encourage you to not follow through on building the combined cycle natural gas plant and to find some other alternatives to meet JEA's anticipated energy needs. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Logan. Next, John Nooney, please.
All right. All right. Hello. I am John Philanthropic Resiliency Nooney, 8356 Bascom Road. That's B as in billionaire, ASCOM as in money road. That's 32216 City Council District 4. And what I want to just share with you, yesterday, did any representative from JEA attend the 6/22/23 Mayor Deegan transition meeting with Garrett Dennis at City Hall that had resiliency on the agenda? Now, I'm serving on that resiliency committee and haven't seen one project. So I'm going to be asked and tasked, I believe, in making a decision on millions of dollars. And I haven't seen one thing on this. And I attended the 3 meetings by CRO and Coglianese, and the JEA was at all 3 meetings. Now, I'm just asked, is JEA, are you all doing your own resiliency thing? Now, on a self-serving note, I live on Pottsburg Creek, Category 1 wetlands, next to a FEMA house that should have already been demolished and reverted back to nature. So right now, in my book, resiliency is a joke. So where I'm going is, the missus and I, somebody came up and said, Nooney, we'll buy your place and we'll make it a private launch. And I thought to myself, okay, good for you. But you know what? I would rather, and we would rather see public access. Because public access to our waterways getting crushed. I'll show anybody. So anyway, I need a sponsor for Pottsburg Creek Public Park next to a FEMA house. So JEA, where are you? Now, also, this is going to be tough to say, but I've been banned on the St. John's Riverkeeper Facebook page. Facebook is an unbelievable tool. We're talking about a worldwide international market just with different groups, and so now here's another thing. There are over 2,500 billionaires in the world, and I'm reaching out to them. I got my Sir Richard Branson shirt on. Now, let me tell you, it's starting to work. Okay, I am more optimistic than ever before. But right now, I'm either going to be, jumping up and down about you guys, or are you just skipping the resiliency part? So anyway, we have our place is Category 1. Now, City Council, just a couple days away. There's a FEMA house. FEMA. I mean, that's a cluster too. But I'll tell you something. It's going to require the political will from somebody. And right now I don't have any, and that's okay. Because hopefully, the word will get out and, call it the Nooney Project. But 2,500 billionaires, visit Nooney. I mean, we've got the owls, fiddler crabs, we got the clams, we got, we've got species of snapping. It is a complete and total thriving ecosystem on Pottsburg Creek, Fluster Pit. And so, anyway, I know you don't meet until September. You get all this happy stuff taking place right now, all this transition stuff. But right now, if this resiliency thing is real, if it's not, then just scrap it and save a few more bucks. Just upgrade your club seats. All right, well, whatever. But listen, any questions? Anybody want to go kayak? Anybody want to make a donation? Anybody know a billionaire? Well, besides the one that we have here, anyone else? All right. All right, thank you for listening.
Okay, thanks, John. Next, Lisa Reineman, please.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the committee, as well as JEA staff and members of the public. My name is Lisa Reineman, your St. John's Riverkeeper. And I just want to thank you all again for the opportunity to serve as part of the IRP committee, as well as our continued work together for a cleaner, more sustainable future. Our river depends on smart choices by JEA. JEA's sustainability efforts will help not only protect our river, but help protect our community, as well as our tributaries and all of our river-based economy that depends on a healthy river. In addition, JEA's commitment to clean energy is key to reducing Northeast Florida's carbon footprint and reliance on expensive fossil fuels. As we know, there's more work to be done, and we look forward to that continued effort to make sure that we fix the clean energy bias that was in the model that reverts to less efficient, dirtier fuels, and also focusing on all the opportunities to make sure we have the best foot forward. As Mr. Creel mentioned, the future is our children and our grandchildren, and they are watching. And we have the ability as a community to all work together to make sure that we have not only a clean, renewable energy future, but also stem climate change, vitalize our community, make sure that we continue to have low rates for all of your customers and all of our neighbors, and also protect our river for future generations, because they will be the stewards to make sure that they're celebrating our good decisions and not having to clean up mistakes we've made. So we all are in this together. We look forward to your continued effort, and we look forward to be a resource in any way we can, but just want to thank you for this opportunity and look forward to the ongoing discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Okay, any more comments at all landed online by chance?
For those that have joined us virtually, if you would like to recognize for public comments, you may go ahead and use the raised hand feature, or go ahead and submit your question via today's chat. Seeing none, I'll hand it back over to you.
Okay, thanks, Landon. Appreciate it. Okay, next, Ricky, I think we're going to be talking about the solar energy project at Florida Municipal Power Agency.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Chair, Solid Committee members. I'm Ricky Erickson. I'm Vice President of Electric Systems here at JEA. I'm here today to present for your consideration, a 138.8 megawatt solar project and its estimated expenditures. So some background, JEA recently completed its electric integrated resource plan. You've heard a lot of comments about that this morning. So the electric IRP recommended a significant increase in the amount of solar energy to JEA's portfolio. And JEA has set a goal of 35% clean energy by 2030. So this will require a significant increase in the amount of clean energy resources in the JEA resource portfolio. To help achieve that goal, JEA has provided a great opportunity from FMPA, the Florida Municipal Power Agency, to add a solar resource to the JEA portfolio. So FMPA has negotiated a solar project with a developer at multiple sites for its members and has offered JEA solar resources from 2 of the sites for JEA's consideration. FMPA has received approvals from its members and is seeking approval from JEA to proceed with the project. Ultimately, a power sales contract would need to be executed from FMPA to JEA, and we're shooting for June 30th for that. A transmission service agreement, TSA with FPL, will also need to be executed to study and execute to transfer the energy from these solar sites to JEA. The power sales contract and associated TSA is intended to increase JEA's renewable energy resource portfolio and resembles 138.8 megawatt solar resource, which would be a 28% capacity factor. And that deliver to our customers approximately 340,000 megawatt hours a year of solar energy. JEA will be working with FMPA to finalize this over the next month or so, next few months. Some of the terms of the PPA, the power sales contract, the price in energy and associated renewable credits is anticipated to not exceed $45 a megawatt hour or $306 million for the 20-year project, for the 20-year commitment. The current FPL transportation cost to deliver energy from these sites to JEA is roughly $2,833 a megawatt hour per month. And that would be roughly $94 million for the entire 20-year project, 20-year commitment. So the power sales contract and the associated TSA is expected to start on December 26th. That's when the project is expected to be complete and will terminate after 20 years for anticipated not to exceed cost of $400 million or around 58.86 cent megawatt per hour, $58.86 per megawatt hour. So the benefits of the project, this will add more renewables to our JEA's resource portfolio, and it will increase our resources solar resources by 2.7%. So as you all know, we don't have much today, so this will increase our solar resource portfolio. So in accordance with our energy market risk policy, JEA's procurement directive exceptions and the delegation of authority, board approval is required. So therefore, staff request the Finance and Operations Committee recommend that the board approve this project at an estimated value of $400.8 million. But have any questions? Bradford County. Not too far, but just far enough to pay transmission.
Yeah. Any other questions at all? Okay, could I have a motion, please, to
Second.
Great, all those in favor say aye. Motion passed, bring it to the board.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks, Ricky.
And thank you for continuing to look in this direction to fund these arrangements, because it helps us in the short term accomplish what we're going to do ourselves in the long term.
Yes, ma'am, we're still looking. We're not.
I know,
Still
I
looking.
know. Keep looking, keep looking.
Yeah, and I'll just say that sort of a small step, but actually a big step in going toward our RRP goals that we talked about. So that's the way we do it, ground by ground.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it, Ricky. Thank you. Okay, Julie, please, on the interlocal agreements.
Morning.
Hi, Julie.
Good morning.
I'm Julie Crawford, Senior Advisor in the Strategy area. I know many of you around here know that we have some agreements in place with several of our surrounding counties to provide water and wastewater services. So I'm here this morning to give a brief summary and status update on those agreements and then other conversations we're having here within the region. We currently have interlocal agreements with Nassau County, St. Johns County, and Clay County. Our agreements with Nassau and St. Johns are very similar. Both are 30-year agreements that expire in 2031. The Clay agreement is in effect as long as JEA provides service within their county. Each has a provision for annual payments to the counties based on gross revenues billed. Currently, there is a mutual desire between JEA and Nassau County to extend the term of the agreement and to clarify certain terms. Nassau County has changed and grown over the past 22 years and is planning on even more growth, as Rob will address in a few minutes. Given that, there is a need to update the agreement. We've held several meetings with the county. We're in process of drafting a new document, and there are subcommittees meeting regularly to refine the more complicated terms, such as the purchase price, should Nassau County choose to take over the system at the end of the term, and how JEA considers capital investment and growth within the county. Initially, we plan to propose a 25-year agreement with a 5-year exit notice. The new agreement, once finalized, will be brought to the board for approval and will also follow the Nassau County protocols for approval on their side. In addition to our interlocal conversations, we were approached by the City of Atlantic Beach to conduct an analysis on their water system. We've engaged our rate consultant, Stantec, to gather data, analyze their system, and make a recommendation for the future. This could result in JEA partnering with Atlantic Beach on regulatory solutions or possibly a purchase recommendation, making sure our priority is ensuring the best outcome for all of the customers. We're meeting monthly and hope to have some completed analysis in the next several months. We will continue to work with all of our regional partners and plan for the future, and we'll bring recommendations as progress is made. And with that, I'm happy to answer questions, and then Rob will take a deeper dive on some development in Nassau County.
Yeah, this is, excuse me, just a heads up, we're starting this process. And you'll do your negotiations and come back to us. I'm glad you're looking at a 30-year horizon, because these can be distracting if you have to review them every 5 to 10 years. But I'm thrilled that we're looking at Atlantic Beach. I think that just makes sense.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Please, as I rock. It's contemplating.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Rob Zamataro, Director of Planning and Development. As Julie mentioned, I'm here to kind of present the Wildlife Development Agreement for your consideration. First, I'd like to provide some background on the development. As you can see, that dark green area, it's about a 15,000 acre tract of land located in Nassau County, primarily east of I-95. It was originally adopted by Nassau in 2011. It includes 24,000 residential connections and about 11 million square foot of industrial and commercial space. The project is expected to develop over the next 30 or 40 years, so this is not a short-term project by any means. And to provide some perspective of what that's like, or some perspective of scope, Nocatee, which has a very similar agreement to this, is started in 2004. It's taken about 20 to 25 years to develop and has about 8,000 ERCs. So Wildlight, this development is about 2 to 3 times the size of Nocatee as far as general scope, to give you some perspective. Since the adoption of the development in 2011, JEA has been working with the Wildlight Development Group. We've done several small phases, but it's kind of come to that time where we need to solidify it under a master agreement and kind of bring it under one form. The agreement focuses primarily on cost participation of transmission mains. There's nearly 800,000 linear feet of transmission mains. And you can see the breakdown on the screen between the water, reclaimed water, and sewer force mains. The total cap or max indebtedness on the contract is $160 million. And the one thing I would like to point out is the $160 million is not a guaranteed payout. It is a maximum indebtedness. It's an upper limit. Each phase of the project gets reviewed from a technical perspective and also goes through the public procurement process. So there is no one project. This is multiple projects over the next, like I said, 40 years. So with that, I'd like to open the floor if anybody has any questions for me prior to your decision.
So just to make sure we're on the same page, because we haven't approved one of these, I think, in a while, or I haven't. This is pretty standard language, standard what we do for all of the developers in the community. We're not doing any exceptions because there's not a lot of detail on, I mean, there's the agreement, but I think sometimes for brevity's sake, we don't put as much detail as maybe some of us would like. So I saw the agreement in the back, but I just want to make sure there's no exceptions. We're doing what we've done for every developer that we've worked with.
Yes, so with this is here today due to the size of the contract.
Okay.
Due to the maximum indebtedness number that's in there. This is very similar to both Nocatee and Rivertown. So those are those contracts are about 15 to 20 years old. We normally have this order of magnitude. We don't usually get a development. This is the largest development JEA has ever done under one contract. Like I said, 301 is a similar, it has about 15,000 ERCs. Nocatee had 8,000 ERCs at Rivertown. I want to say it's around that 8,000 also. So it is common practice for a development of this magnitude. We just don't see them that often. Most of our other developments are done individual cost participation, and we have a policy that those fall under. So it is consistent with the other developments we've done.
Is it consistent with our general policy?
It is consistent with the interlocal agreement. So the interlocal agreement with Nassau has slightly different conditions than our general policy.
Okay.
But that was executed back So because this is in Nassau, it is consistent with all our Nassau cost participation.
Gotcha. So it's
So just so I got it straight, 30 to 40-year project started in 2011. So the 2051 roughly is when this is supposed to be complete.
Yes, and that's subject to,
Sure.
you know, recessions,
Right.
economy.
Access to capital. Sorry, had to say that.
The other thing I would like to note that when we do put in the transmission mains, we are partnering with the developer, meaning the developer has all the other infrastructure. So it's not like there's, I won't say minimal risk, but it's a partnership moving forward. These projects are usually very involved. There's roadways, stormwater, electric, other functions that the developer is fronting the money for.
Right.
And so we are just participating in the water utilities under this agreement. So it's not like we're going out on a limb. There's minimal risk. So the developer only usually invests the capital if they're assured to sell the units. So it's not a very, it's minimal risk from our perspective.
Okay. Good. Any other questions at all?
This is an action item. I'm happy to move it to approval, given that this is in line with our standard agreements and our local agreements.
And I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Thank you.
Thank
Rob.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, Russell, for our quarterly financial review, please.
Good morning, members of the committee.
Good morning.
All right, this is our electric update. The chart on the top of the slide is megawatt sales. Sales are up 1.4% from March, but they're actually down 1.3% for the year. Our primary driver is degree days are down 77 days compared to last year. The chart on the bottom left depicts electric O&M spending. O&M spend is projected at 93% of budget, and we're just below 50% of our projected spend at the midway point of the year. The chart on the bottom right is our electric capital spend. Capital spend is projected at 98% of the budget, and capital spend is 44% of our forecast. So we're in line with our forecast and ahead of prior year.
So can we pause for a second?
Sure.
And on the O&M side, that the forecast to budget, given the fact that we're now going to be looking at a budget where I'm very interested in O&M expenses, can you explain a little more what the difference in the forecast to the budget is? Because that's not a rounding error in my mind. So we're forecasting pretty significantly below what our budget was. If I'm looking at your forecast the right way.
That is correct. So it is significantly lower than the budget, but it's within our target. It's 93% of budget, so it's not a rounding error, but it's not, I don't.
So there's
I mean, you get my question,
there's
right?
one big project
So
that,
there has to be something.
so
that's
there's
missing.
a Kennedy remediation project that was $14 million that we had in the FY23 budget that we're not going to get done this year. It's going to roll over into the FY24 budget. And so that's $14 million of that difference. So it's one remediation project that we're actually going to do. We're just, because of the permitting and some of the prep work that needed to be done beforehand, isn't going to get done this year, but will show up in next year's budget. Does that help answer your
That
question?
helps. That makes a great deal of sense.
And
Thank you.
98% on the electric side is a lot closer to 93.
The capital, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Great, thank you.
All right, and this slide is electric revenue. The FY23 electric revenue is down $14 million compared to prior year. This is all a result of fuel costs. Fuel costs are actually up this year, so the fuel revenue is up, but we had to offset that with higher deposits into the non-fuel purchase power fund and lower withdrawals from the non-fuel purchase power fund and fuel stabilization fund. And that nets to the $14 million decrease. All right, this is a new slide for this committee. This is the fuel rate slide. This slide demonstrates the movement in our fuel rate projections If you'll take second notice that all the months to the left of May, there is no deviation because they're in the past. The dark blue is the current month projection, and the light blue is our prior month projection for the fuel rate for each month. There are some small variances in the fuel rate projections from month to month, but the main takeaway from this slide is that fuel rate is projected to be 60% of what it was in March.
This is a good news slide right
Yeah.
here.
This is a great news
This is a
slide.
really good news slide.
It's
And-
Great news.
And somewhat stable.
But yeah.
It's almost a flat line.
That's our fuel team is, they get into the weeds and really knock it out of the park.
Yeah, it's amazing.
There have been some community groups that have approached us in the board meeting in the past that have been concerned about the increase, and we kept saying the base rate will be taken care of by the fuel rate. Have we circled back to them to make sure that they're seeing that in their bills?
Well, we continue to talk through that, and even though we're talking through it, we also still get some comments because the feeling lags the facts a little bit.
Right.
So,
But we've
yeah,
got,
but we
there-
have
we-
continued conversations.
we've got a list of who those folks are
Yes.
and who they represented. So it may be appropriate for someone in Sheila's team to reach
Yes.
out to them to say, this is what we're seeing. Is your community feeling the same way?
Yes.
Marty will do that.
Oh, hello, voice from above. Thank you, Sheila. Thank you. It's just that they're the most fragile of our citizens, and I think it's important to make sure that what we see on this slide, they are beginning to see in their communities.
Just one other comment that we don't show it in this, but if we also are tracking FY '24. And to your comment, that line is staying flat.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's a better news slide.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Okay, last quarter last year was ugly.
Yeah.
All right, the water slide, or the water recap. The top sales are up 3.1%, and that's in line with our 3% increase in customer count. The bottom left is our water O&M, and the spend is projected to be in line with budget, and spending is currently 50% of the forecast. The bottom right is the capital spend for water, and it is 45% of budget, and forecasted spending is in line with budget. The water revenue slide. Revenue is consistent with the 2.9% increase in customers. Reclaimed is higher as a result of new neighborhoods coming on, and rain in inches being half of what it was in FY '22.
Until the past 2
To make
weeks.
it- Yeah,
Until recent weather.
yes. The yards are looking great this past couple weeks. Our financial metrics are all strong. If you'll notice, the third metric on the top row this is the first quarter that the debt to asset ratio has dropped below our target. And then on the far right, our weighted average yield of investments continues to close the gap on our target return. Our target return is the rolling 12-month 2-year treasury rate. So our target is constantly moving, but the difference in quarter 1 and Q2, we closed the gap 12% on the target metric. And just a little update as we look forward. As of May, we closed the gap 36% on our target. So we're creeping up on the target. Treasury team's doing great with that.
Money markets are at 5%.
Yeah.
I'm just, they can be above target.
And so as some of our investments are rolling off, we're going into higher yield.
Okay, good.
So
I mean, there's a
that's
lot of
all.
high yield, low risk out there right
Yeah.
now. So I would challenge you to be above target.
Great. Any other questions at all? Great. Thanks, Russell. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, now to talk to district energy system. Laura, please.
Good morning. I'm Lori Whitmer, the Director of Budgets. I'm presenting District Energy System, the 23 amendment, as well as the 24 operating capital budget for your review and approval. We are seeking approval to amend the FY23 DS capital budget of $6.936 million and recommend an increase of $2.93 million. On the left, you'll see the additional capital projects of $2.089 million. And on the right, the projects that were in the budget but are increasing by $0.843 million. Staff seeks approval to increase these DS capital budget to $9.868 million. It's also important to note these capital projects are needed to grow the system, so it's a good story for JEA.
It looks like the majority of the projects are extensions, which I would hope means more revenue and then just one upgrade.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And as we look at 9.8 million, were there items within the budget that slipped that we could offset? I mean, this is really needed at this juncture. And is that because not just slippage, but costs have gone up? I mean, or we're just on track with everything?
I'm going to let Jordan talk through the district energy because it is a good story, and it's when you get to the budget, it's a bigger number for next year
So
because
it's
of the
more
growth
usage.
of the
It's
system.
growth. It's growth of the system.
But I think it'd be worthwhile for Jordan to kind of talk through a couple of those growth activities.
I just wanted to get you at the table.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. On the left-hand side of the slide, those are growth projects. So the top line there, the Metropolitan Loft, is actually a data center here downtown that signed a contract earlier, actually this calendar year, and we are extending a main just for them. So that is actually going to be reimbursed to JEA, but we are covering the cost initially. The rest of those are all to expand our system in the Hogan's Creek area. So this is to support we'll see future stadium, but more important, or more, not more importantly, but sooner than that is the shipyards project that we are extending the main to serve. With that comes an upgrade and an expansion of the treatment plant, or the chilled water plant that is down there. So all of those projects are running together. The way we address this in the FY24 budget, that we probably won't get into that level of detail, is we actually have what we call a bucket, where we know projects that are likely to happen in 24 but aren't particularly defined yet, so that we'll be able to pull money out of that bucket as those projects are defined and not have to come back with an amendment.
Okay. That's a good news story too.
The new Jaguar Performance Facility is on our chilled water.
Yes, sir. That's completed. They are connected.
Okay.
That project, that's why it's on the right-hand side of the screen there. It bled into FY23 a little bit, which is also part of the need for the amendment.
We've got the ability to do this. I move to approve.
And second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Good.
Thank you.
It's taking too long. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
something that should have been done for 20 years.
Thanks, Laura.
All right.
Riverside Avenue, that was such a missed opportunity.
Okay, our FY24 budget.
All right. Next, we're going to review, for your review and approval, is the FY24 operating and capital budget. Before we get started, I want to highlight the savings initiatives taking place across the organization. We have $1 billion in savings. A few highlights are the $728 million in debt service. Over the last 5 years, debt refunding has created over $13 million in savings, and early defeasance of debt has created $715 million in savings. With natural gas hedging, from January 18 to February 23, we have saved $181 million. For the headquarters, in May of 2020, it was decided to reduce the number of floors from 9 to 7. That is estimated at $27 million in savings in rent over the life of the lease, estimated $19 million in operations savings over the life of the lease. Further down, you will see the repairing of manholes for $7 million, north side utilization of biomass supplements for unit 1 and 2 of $2.5 million, wastewater in-house pump station rehab for $1.7 million are some of the additional highlights of how we at JEA are making decisions to reduce costs for our customers. Then we have new revenues at $3.5 million. We have 204 rail cars used at Plant Shear. They were sold for a one-time revenue of $2.4 million. We have new revenues from an electrification program. It's a one-time cost of $530,000, but it will generate $550,000 a year for the next 11 years. Net revenues from recently signed chilled water contracts that Jordan covered of $500,000 a year. And then lastly, we have $191 million in cost avoidance, working with our property insurer, FM Global. Over the past year, we have completed 11 of their recommendations to create this savings or cost avoidance.
And these are amazing efforts. And I don't know the number off the top of my head, but in my organization, people are the most expensive part of our budget. I know this budget, I think it adds 5% more FTE, and we had 5 to 6% more FTE last year. Have we done a deep dive into FTE expense? And I mean, we've got some great savings here, but I'm just curious about the increase in FTEs.
Yeah, I'll take that one. I think that there's a couple of things going on. We're getting the right people in the right seats, making the right decisions about how many people need to be there. But we hadn't added any number of employees over the last 10 or 12 years. Some of these are still conversions of contractors. And I believe that we had too few employees in some areas, and we're going to have to address that. So we have the org effectiveness team and the HR team that are working to be sure that we get the right numbers in the right place. But I think we will see continued additional employee counts over the next 3 or 4 or 5 years as we expand facilities, as we add water plants and water reclamation facilities and purification. And I think we're going to continue to see growth in that area. There's other areas that we think we can see reductions because efficiencies that can be gained on the way that we're using our AMI metering system and those. So we're balancing those things. But right now we're in a growth period of the employees. And in our largest expenses it is a large expense, is not the largest expense.
Well, I mean, fuel, we don't have to.
Fuel
We
and
don't have
capital.
fuel, we don't have fuel
Yeah,
expense.
fuel and capital.
Our capital expense looks a little different at the bank, but
Yeah.
the FTE piece is something that I have brought up previously, and I would ask, to the chair, if we could do a deeper dive into that. I mean, I know this is maybe our third budget that we've done together. The first one was kind of an emergency, and so now we've got this nice cadence, we've got this schedule. What happens many times is, maybe not here, but in corporate America, is you give teams the FTEs, but you wake up and 6 months later, you still have the contract employee. So I just really want us to do a deeper dive into that, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe a future meeting when we don't have a budget to present.
The same way we've been talking about, the next year's budget will include, longer term projections and so forth, including the FTEs as part of that.
Yeah, so we've talked about this year, you're looking at fiscal year 24, and what we're working towards is having a 3-year business plan that really maps out what the impacts of these will be going forward.
Yeah, that makes so much
do that.
more sense.
Yeah.
And it again is great that we're in a place as a new organization, if you will, and a new team that we can begin looking that far out. But I just want a deeper dive into FTEs.
Yeah, and I think associated with that, Marty, too, is just as we do the deeper dive, the retention, because I know some of the issues are a large percentage retirement eligible if they do bite. Then what's the impact on that too?
Yeah, that is the other piece of our puzzle. Is as we dive into it, we'll show the 30+% of our employees that are eligible to retire. And so over the next 6 or 7 years, we may have to overhire in order to get people ready to be able to cover for succession and just cover those retirements that are coming. So all of that we can dive into and get a lot more detail. We've got teams working on that already.
Y'all have done an amazing job on fuel expense, on debt service expense, because the budgeted increase on debt service, candidly, is not as much as I thought it would, given what the markets are doing. So y'all are doing a great job hedging, and that's part of this cost save. I just think that we can have the same level of inspection around that, because it's a big number.
And it is the reason that we've built the org effectiveness team to be able to do exactly that. We'll bring that back in the coming months.
We meet a lot in finance meetings, so let's do that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, good idea, Marty. Thanks. Okay.
All right. Building our 24 budget, we do through the lens of our values, strategic focus areas, and strategic objectives. You'll see that referenced throughout our presentation. Here's how we're meeting our financial objectives to align with our strategy. We're taking a proactive approach to monitoring our 24 O&M spending to achieve our strategic objectives. Increase headcount to support growing needs of the business. Proactive rate adjustments are included to support a continued cost of doing business. Continue assessment of non-fuel purchase power rate stabilization usage to offset increased costs associated with Plant Vogtle. Growing of the DES system and stable financial metrics. Here's an overview of our annual budgeting process. First, we have the annual budget inputs that takes approximately 60 to 90 days to collect and assemble. We receive 2,200 O&M budget lines that are entered by 200 plus stakeholders across the organization. Then it's reviewed and compiled. A 5-year capital plan contains 800 plus projects. They each require estimates, schedules, and scopes that are reviewed and updated and compiled by 230 plus stakeholders across the organization. And budget also compiles salaries and benefits. We get input from HR, OE, and inputs from the business on changes to FTE count, titles, cost center location, salary for budgeted vacancies, etc. This information is entered into our model to calculate these base salaries for each cost center, along with any step and general increases, vacancy funding, and analysis of each benefit category to properly budget benefits as well. Step 2, we have other calculations and inputs. We have debt service, government transfers, fuel and purchase power, funding sources, interlocal agreements. This takes approximately 10 days to compile. Step 3, all the inputs are given to financial planning to run their financial models. This takes approximately 3 to 5 business days to compile, depending on the complexity of the inputs. Outputs are revenue requirements, financial projections for multiple years, key financial metrics, drivers for the results per system. The results are then reviewed and discussed with leadership. We do a preliminary run of step 1 through 4 at the beginning of the budget season with some general assumptions, and then we repeat it with the actual budget inputs from the business. Then if changes are needed, the process is repeated. These inputs would take less time on additional run. It's just all dependent on the changes that are needed. But most of the data is intertwined, so changing one variable changes it all and requires a repeat of the process. After it's finalized, the budget team needs about 4 weeks to compile the operating budget. We have to create several schedules for the city of Jacksonville, the operating capital budgets by system, their detailed schedules, the 5-year capital plan by project, SJRPP, and share budget, council packet for council auditors that entails numerous supporting schedules and commentary on the budget variances, and board documents and presentations. The proposed 24 budget reflects prudent spending with strategy in mind. The capital plan contains projects that will support and grow the systems, always striving for effective completion. Fuel and purchase power forecasts are projected to decline to an average in the upper 30s per megawatt hour. Non-fuel purchase power includes $197.2 million in expenses for Vogtle. A withdrawal of $15 million from the rate stabilization fund will slightly offset these expenses. The 24 budget is intended to be supported by mid-year base revenue increase of 3.75 on electric and stable water and DES rates. Here's the historical and 24 consolidated operating budget of $1.954 billion that includes electric, water, and DES. The key driver for 24 being lower than 22 and 23 is due to the lower fuel projections.
Well, and this slide illustrates my point, right? So we've done a great job on certain categories, but if you look from 20 on to 21, the O&M expensive has grown significantly. So just again, let's dig into that a little bit.
Here is an illustration of the combined illustration that breaks down electric and water operating budget components into a dollar. So for every dollar a customer pays for electric and water service, this is where the money is going. O&M, fuel, and purchase power, and current year capital funds are our top three.
That dollar would have looked a lot different over the years, right? I mean, the percent, that would be interesting to see historic changes of what that dollar.
You get that, Griffin?
He built the PowerPoint. Here we show the historical and the 24 budget growth and accounts by system. This is 23 versus 24. We have 2% growth on electric, 1.26 on water, 2.6 on wastewater, and 11.1 on reclaim. Here are government transfers via the JEA bill. We have the history, 20 to 23. For 24 budget, the total to the city of Jacksonville is $262.7 million. It's the sum of the city contribution, public service tax, and city franchise fee. The total to the state is $60 million. That is the sales tax and gross receipts tax. Here's our 24 labor costs. The total headcount is increasing 4.7%, 108 positions. This reflects the needs of the business, a result of workforce planning. Base payroll expenses for 24 increased 10.4% versus 23 budget. Payroll expenses includes bargaining unit step increases for contractual agreements and estimated general increases for bargaining units and appointed employees. Benefits 23 versus 24 increased 1.2 million. This includes a 1.3 million increase in assumed incentive pay versus 23 budget, which reflects 3.5% of gross salaries. Pension increased 9.7 million. Pension includes employer portion of defined benefit and defined contribution.
I am not a pension expert. It helped me rationalize a 20% increase in today's interest rate environment. I mean, again, I know not anything of what I'm asking. That just seems high.
So part of that is the catch up from, we had not such a great year the last couple of years, or last year in particular. So as the actuarial refines those numbers, processes that out over a 30-year period where we're trying to get to being funded 100% where we're not funded 100%. That's why we're trying to catch up.
So the market moved faster than the actuary.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Gotcha.
Right. Next, we're going to review the detail of our electric system. For 24, we're assuming flat sales growth of 12,200,000 megawatt hour sales. This revenue reflects the 3.75% mid-year base revenue increase. 23 to 24, you see the increase in base revenue of 31 million, a decrease in the fuel of 226 million, and an increase of 8 million for other revenue. This slide breaks down the 1.329 billion budget into its operating components. The largest component in FY24 is the fuel at 446 million. It's approximately 1/3 of the operating budget. It's a significant decrease compared to fuel in 22 and 23. The non-fuel purchase power.
So on that, so fuel and purchase power are combined, but so the purchase power is staying, the amount of power we're buying from other people is what I'm trying to ask. Is that staying stable or is that going down also?
That
Rick?
That's it, roughly stable. But with Vogel coming online, that is a purchase power, so the probably will go up slightly.
Gotcha.
So the total amount might go up because of Vogel, but the Vogel purchase, the fuel cost of Vogel is way lower. So.
Okay.
And then some of that purchase power is really not the long-term plan. It's something that we're buying in the market, day ahead, month ahead, kind of, and day of. Type
Right,
of
efficiencies.
Yeah.
Okay. The majority of that savings is the fuel.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, that's where it all.
And I'll channel our chair. He would say, well, and the transmission cost is probably going to go up too, correct? I mean,
Yes.
if Bobby were here, he would say that, so I'm channeling him.
Transmission is going to become a big focus in the coming years.
So the operating budget components here, the non-fuel purchase power is the 245 million. It includes that withdrawal of 15 million from the stabilization fund to slightly offset expenses. The non-fuel purchase power in 22, you see, is higher actuals, and 23 forecast is higher projections because we're contributing to the stabilization fund in order to offset these future Vogel expenses and help alleviate future rate pressure.
So if you'll notice that lavender line, it was 72 million and 65 million in FY 20 and 21. And then in FY 22, it's jumped up. That big jump up is where we're taking money and putting it aside for the Vogel expenses, which will be hitting us very, very soon. And actually in 24, we're actually going to start drawing a little bit out of that. And then in 25, 26, and 27, we'll continue to draw that down till there's no more. But that will help us have a less rate increases over time. We'll smooth that curve and keep it lower.
For how many years did you say?
We go up to 27, I think. We anticipate right now that the fund will be depleted in 27.
But we also anticipate rate increases between now and 27
That would
each
be
year that would
mild
offset
enough
that.
to offset that.
They're
I
mild.
just don't want sticker shock in
That's why we're doing
27.
it. Yeah.
Exactly. And we hope that we'll have our rates in a spot where we don't have to come back and say, oh, now we need a 12% rate increase.
Right.
Nobody.
Right.
No.
I'll
There's
be
a
term
slide.
limited out at that point, but I think we need to be good stewards to future board members.
Yeah.
and not have them-
3 slides ahead.
Okay.
is-
All right.
The O&M budget is 315 million. It's an increase of 20 million from 23, and we'll be reviewing that closer on another slide, and no new debt for 24 for the electric system.
Let me just, and I should have asked this way before, for O&M and capital, for St. John River Power Park and Shear operating, Shear, I assume that that continues to decrease, right? Or am I missing something on it? Or I don't know, I should know more about this. So with those decommissioned, I assume that eventually that won't disappear, but, or won't it?
Now I know why it's so crowded back there. The brains are behind me.
Yes, they are.
That's a great question, General. That represents debt service on the remaining bonds outstanding
Okay.
at Power Park and Shear. There's about 92 million, I believe, at Power Park and 25 million roughly at Shear. They're Build America bonds that had very high make-whole premiums to defease those bonds. So we kept them outstanding.
There's also a small amount on Shear that's an ongoing O&M expense because of joint. I'm going to oversimplify this because I can't there's joint infrastructure that was in place, and what we are out of, there's still some joint costs that go along with
Common
that
costs.
ongoing. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
That's a small component.
Small.
About 4 million, I think.
We'll have both of those for a while.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you.
How much longer on those bonds?
2030,
Okay.
28 and 2028 for Shearer and 2030 for Power Park, I believe, but relatively soon.
Babs were pretty low price. Those are, what are today, in today's environment?
Assuming we receive the full 35% subsidy from the IRS, and they're sequestering part of that money, but they were intended to be 65% of the taxable rate.
Right.
They were issued at roughly 6 5/8.
Okay.
They were done in 2010.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Here we have the historical of the fuel expenses budget to actual spend. 22 and beginning of 23 were extreme in regards to the fuel markets. The 24 budget is 446 million. This is the 226 million. The slide breaks down the 613 million budget into the operating components. This is an increase of 9 million compared to 23. For 24, we have new money debt issuance forecasted at 352.6 million. The O&M budget is 236 million, an increase of 31 from 23. Yes. I think our audience is still struggling with audio.
Yeah.
I think he just, Eric has got it.
Okay.
This is
Oh,
Landon. Your
it's
audio
back.
is back and we've confirmed it for the
Okay.
virtual
Okay.
audience.
For salaries, benefits, and overtime, 4 million utility costs, and 0.2 in new business. DES capital is set at 16.8 million, a 9.9 million increase from 23, the original budget, not the amended budget. The largest project in 24 is 6 million for the future expansion, which Jordan had touched on, the different projects that are in that, and 4 million for Hogan Creek line extension. It will require new money, but again, it's all growth related. I request committee to recommend that the board of directors approve the 24 budget. But lastly, I would also like to thank, like you said, the brains are back there. Not all of them are here, but I would like to say thank you to the team, operating capital budget, their hard work in putting this together. They're a great team. I'm very proud of everything they do. I couldn't do it without them. And we have 4 new staff already this year over the past few months, and I'm excited to have them on the team and see what we can do in future year.
Any questions at all? Okay, thank you, Lori. Great work by everybody on putting this together a lot. Could I have a motion to recommend approval to the board to pass 24 budget?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passed. Great. Thank you, Lori. Appreciate it. Okay, any other business? No.
Not business, just a statement in the back. I think Appendix G was emergency preparedness. We are entering hurricane season. Seems like we just went through hurricane season. It's kind of like the budget cycle, right? Like we're done with one and then we start all over again. But just, I know we're ready. And I want to thank staff for always doing such a great job when we're in the midst of a hurricane bearing down on our community. So I hope we don't have to experience that this year, but I know you're ready.
And I'll just say, I went to the EOC 2 weeks ago, and Adam Pendler, I hope I said his name right. Wow, what a great, he's sort of the manager of that facility. And Ted was there, Melissa, and Nancy Kilgo. But I walked through that facility. As I told Jay, my experience in those EOC type situations, it's always chaotic, and how you get controlled activity under chaos quick sooner rather than later is important. But I was not there for the tabletop exercise, but I'm pretty comfortable. They've got all the communications in place. Everybody knows what they're supposed to do. And just some great work by Adam and everybody associated with that, where I don't think anybody's underwhelming the importance and how complex that operation is. And I'm confident they'll be able to step up. Knock on wood, we don't need to, but when we need to activate it, yeah, that we'll be as ready as we possibly can. Very impressed with that facility with Adam and the team.
Cool. Be that one of the other board members would like a tour, Adam. That is his baby. He loves to show up. So
I would like to do that.
Actually, I'd like to do that too.
Yeah.
We can't
We
do
can't
it
go
with Rick.
together.
We can't go together, but I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
Highly recommend. They've thought of everything there. It's a great.
We'll
Let Melissa know.
work that out for y'all.
That'd be great.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, hey, John Baker, let me ask any comments from your end at all, John?
You may not be able to hear us. Are we back on?
So there,
Nothing.
might have dropped off.
We can hear you in the boardroom.
John may have dropped out.
Okay.
Okay, with that, this meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.